The crystalline towers of the Valkyrian royal palace pierced the violet sky of Nixara Prime, their surfaces shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that responded to the distress echoing through the halls. For 17 standard cycles, nearly 48 Earth hours, the heir to the Valkyrian throne had been crying, and nothing could stop it. Grace pushed her cleaning cart down the ornate corridor, her worn jumpsuit a stark contrast to the opulent surroundings. She was one of only 3 humans working in the palace, part of the maintenance crew that kept the massive structure functioning. The Valkyrians, with their elongated limbs and iridescent skin, barely acknowledged her existence. To them, humans were a curiosity, a species that had only recently achieved interstellar travel, primitive by galactic standards. The crying grew louder as she approached the royal wing. Grace had heard the commotion, of course. Everyone in the palace had. The birth of Princess Solara's child had been celebrated across 17 star systems, but the joy had quickly turned to concern when the infant wouldn't stop wailing. She paused at the intersection, watching as another procession of robed physicians hurried past, their faces etched with worry. The Valkyrian medical establishment was the finest in the known galaxy, capable of regenerating entire organs and curing diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia. Yet they stood helpless before one crying baby. Grace resumed her work, humming softly to herself as she had always done. It was an old Earth lullaby her grandmother had taught her, one passed down through generations. The melody helped her think, helped her forget that she was light years from home, cleaning floors for aliens who looked through her like she was transparent. As she passed the entrance to the royal nursery, something extraordinary happened. The crying stopped. Not gradually, but instantly, as if someone had flipped a switch. Grace froze, her humming dying on her lips. Through the doorway, she could see the assembled physicians turning in confusion, their translator devices clicking rapidly as they tried to comprehend what had just occurred. "Continue," a voice commanded in Galactic Standard. Grace realized they were talking to her. Princess Solara herself stood in the doorway, her 7-foot frame towering over the human janitor. Her silver eyes were wide with desperation and hope. "The sound you were making, do it again," the princess pleaded. Nervously, Grace resumed humming the lullaby. The effect was immediate. Through the doorway, she could see the infant Valkyrian, a small creature with translucent skin that swirled with colors, settling peacefully in its crystalline cradle. Its tiny chest rose and fell in a rhythm that matched Grace's melody. The physicians erupted in rapid conversation, their devices struggling to translate the cacophony of theories. Grace continued humming, afraid to stop, afraid to break whatever spell she had inadvertently cast. Ezra arrived within minutes. As the human liaison officer assigned to the palace, he was summoned whenever humanity's reputation hung in the balance. He found Grace surrounded by Valkyrian scientists, all trying to understand what made her humming so effective. "The frequency is all wrong for standard Valkyrian neural patterns," one physician was saying, manipulating a holographic display. "Yet the infant responds positively. This makes no biological sense." Ezra caught Grace's eye and gave her an encouraging nod. He'd been watching her work for months, always impressed by her quiet competence. Her refusal to be diminished by the condescension she faced daily. "Perhaps," Ezra suggested carefully, "you're approaching this wrong. You're looking for a medical explanation when the answer might be simpler." The lead physician turned to him, his expression one of barely concealed irritation. "Simple? Human, we have analyzed every possible acoustic frequency, every neural pathway. There is nothing simple about this situation. With respect," Ezra continued, "your technology can cure any disease, but can it comfort? Can it soothe? That's what crying babies need, not medicine, but comfort." Princess Solara moved closer, her interest piqued. "Explain." Grace found her voice, though it trembled slightly. "Human babies cry too, Your Highness. Not because they're sick, but because they're scared or uncomfortable or just want to know someone's there. The humming, it's just something we do. My grandmother did it and her grandmother before her. It's not about the frequency or the neural patterns, it's about care." The Valkyrian scientists exchanged glances, their advanced minds struggling with a concept their technology had made them forget. In their pursuit of medical perfection, they had eliminated the need for such primitive comforts. Valkyrian infants were typically gestated in biochambers with perfectly calibrated environments. Princess Solara's choice to carry her child naturally was controversial, even archaic by their standards. "Your species still practices this?" the princess asked, wonder creeping into her voice. "Every human parent everywhere," Ezra confirmed. "We call them lullabies. They've been part of our culture for thousands of years. Long before we had medicine or science, we had songs." The infant stirred, making a small sound, and Grace instinctively resumed her humming. The baby settled immediately. Princess Solara made a decision that would reverberate across the galaxy. "Grace, human worker, I request that you remain here. Teach me this lullaby. Teach me what your people know of comfort." And so Grace stayed, no longer a janitor but an unlikely ambassador of humanity's oldest wisdom. Word spread quickly through the palace, then through the planet, then across the 17 star systems of the Valkyrian conquered. The species that had mastered genetic engineering and quantum medicine learned something new from the primitive humans. That some solutions couldn't be found in laboratories or databases. Ezra watched as Grace, with infinite patience, taught Princess Solara the lullaby. The Valkyrian royal's voice was different, her vocal cords producing harmonics no human could match, but the essence remained. It wasn't about perfect pitch or precise frequency. It was about presence, about care, about the ancient bond between parent and child that transcended species. In the following weeks, the Galactic Council took notice. Human cultural practices became subjects of serious study. Music therapy programs were established. Other species began to explore the emotional dimensions of caregiving they had optimized away in their technological advancement. Grace returned to Earth eventually, but she left behind something more valuable than any treaty or trade agreement. She left proof that humanity, for all its primitive technology and short lifespan, had wisdom to offer the stars. And in the royal nursery of Nexara Prime, a Valkyrian princess hummed an Earth lullaby to her child, bridging millions of years of evolution with a melody as old as love itself. The galaxy had learned an important lesson, that humanity's strength lay not in their weapons or their ships, but in their stubborn insistence that some things, comfort, compassion, connection, could never be improved upon by technology. They were perfect just as they were, passed down through generations, hummed by grandmothers and mothers and strangers who cared. Some solutions, the galaxy discovered, were written not in code or equations, but in the simple act of being present, of offering comfort without expecting anything in return. That was the human way, and the galaxy was richer for having learned it.